welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief, compassion, and humor. I'm Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach in Columbus, Ohio. And today I have another special guest episode. I had a lovely conversation with Noah Mussay. He is a young man living in South Carolina with spina bifida who came on to talk about his life and growing up with a disability and how it impacted him and his friendships and his relationships, his moments of isolation, and how he moved past that. So before we dive into the episode, just a quick note. I am posting these on my Facebook page. I would love to have some conversations over there. Tell us what you thought of the episode, or tell us what your answer to the death duck question is, anything like that. If you'd like to see the video of my conversation with Noah, you can join me over on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. So hop on over there if you want to see the video. There's a great bonus in that video of my cat licking his butt behind me for a big portion of the interview. So if you want to watch a nice video of my cat licking his butt behind me and me desperately trying to ignore it, check it out. Patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. I also need to say a huge thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, 100% online. So if you don't want to wear pants, you don't have to. If you go to BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. Just go to their website, answer a few questions about your needs and preferences. Ari's going to join too. BetterHelp can help you find the right therapist for their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however it's best for you. Text, chat, phone, video, carrier pigeon, maybe. Whatever works. You can message your therapist at any time. Schedule sessions when it's convenient for you. So with BetterHelp, you can get the same professionalism and quality from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who's custom picked for you. Scheduling, flexibility, and more. You get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com if you go to BetterHelp.com/Nikki the Death Doula. Ari, you're making this impossible. That's BetterHelp.com/Nikki the Death Doula. All right, enough of that. Let's get on to my conversation with Noah Mussay. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. We have a super special guest. Noah Mussay is here with me today. And Noah, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and why you're here.
Yeah, so I'm Noah. I'm 27 years old, currently living in South Carolina, but originally from the Chicagoland area. And I am a physically disabled individual, so I was born with a spinal cord disorder called spina bifida. Which is basically I was born with a hole in my spine, and it was closed up at birth, but I'm paralyzed from the waist down. I use a manual wheelchair. There's many different types of spina bifida, so based on the location of the hole and where it is on the spine, there can be varying degrees of disability. I have the most severe form of spina bifida, not to brag, but yeah. So yeah, that's basically me.
Yeah, thank
In a
you.
nutshell.
Yeah. So the reason why I wanted to invite you on, as we were talking a little bit before we started recording, I like to talk about all different types of grief. And you had mentioned, I met you on a podcast guest exchange group, and you had mentioned going through a period in your younger years where you felt very isolated and very alone and didn't really have much. I mean, I don't know about your support situation, so I don't know if you want to go into that at all, but I just kind of wanted to explore like what this was like for you learning to cope with this and how to cope with every day and, work through your grief as it is.
Yeah, so I, had a very good childhood, very happy childhood. I, of course, have my parents, and then I have an older sister. We're about 4.5 years apart, and we were a very close family, have been to this day because of I think in large part due to circumstances that has brought us together. And, growing up, I was always a shy kid, but I never really had too much of a problem with making friends. In elementary school, it was relatively easy. I was a part of I I'm one of the youngest generations of disabled individuals that, went to public school because the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed in 1990. I was born in
Mhm.
1995. So I was a part of one of the first generations of disabled kids to be in a regular school with, general ed kids. And so I think in large part kids were kind of intrigued. They were kind of like, oh, you know, he's in a wheelchair. That's cool. Never seen it before. I remember every single year up to about third grade, my teacher would always have this chart. And on different days, kids would get to push me like the entire day. So there would be one person assigned to push me around
Oh,
the
wow, that's
entire
kind of
day.
neat.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I think they did too. So like I said, I was able to socialize. I was able to make friends, and what basically ended up happening is around fourth fourth and fifth grade, those 2 years, I had two different medical issues that popped up, two unrelated issues that popped up that made it so that I had to be pulled out of school for extended periods of time. And in particular, when I was in fifth grade, I had a pretty serious medical issue pop up, which meant that I went for the first semester of fifth grade, and then I had to be pulled out of school and homeschooled the rest of the year.
Mhm.
And what preceded was basically a year where I was surrounded by in-home care nurses and doctors and surgeons. The only people that I really saw were adults. So I was getting a lot of adult influence in my life and really matured during that year. And then when I came back to school for sixth grade, I found myself just feeling kind of out of place. I was starting to become very self conscious and just very aware of the differences between myself and my peers. And that led to a period of my life where I still had friends, but they were
Mhm.
either people that I already kind of knew, and the rest of the time I would just, I would go to class, I would not really say anything to anyone, I would keep to myself. And that was a problem that really persisted through most of high school, definitely affected me in college. So yeah, it's been a rough road of trying to find community and kind of trying to work my way out of that isolation.
Okay. Just something I have to mention. You had talked about how the ADA was passed in 1990, and that's actually a little nugget of knowledge I already knew, and that just blows my mind that it was that recent. And yeah, sorry. I went to school
Yeah,
in the 80s, so it was before all
right.
that. And it's
Yep.
it's just it's crazy to think all this just happened in my lifetime, but I mean, that's great. I'm so thrilled
Mhm.
that younger people like you can, don't have to be put in a special school or things like that. That just makes me happy. So, um,
Yeah, I am very, very thankful to all of the trailblazers that came
yeah.
before me that made it so that I was able to, you know, lead
Yeah.
a normal life.
If you haven't already, there's a movie called The Music Within, and it's about the guy
Oh,
who founded the ADA. It's a really good movie. So, I always recommend. I
I'll
think
have
it's on
to,
Amazon Prime. I always recommend that movie to everybody because it's so good.
I'll have
Uh,
to check it out.
yeah. Okay. Sorry, we got off track a little bit.
No, that's fine.
So when you went back into school in sixth grade, you said when
Yep.
you went back. Okay. How did it take? I mean, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but did it take a lot of time? Like, when did you start feeling like you were ingrained again, or like when you felt more accepted again, or did that feeling ever come back in your school years?
It really didn't. It really didn't.
Mm,
I think what happened was that I I didn't see kids really wanting to talk to me that much. I didn't see people coming up and introducing themselves to me. And, I was in middle school, so that I was in a new school
hmm.
with new kids, and all of
Yeah.
these relationships had formed in fifth grade when I was gone.
Gotcha.
And so I just kind of felt like everyone's in their groups. And yeah, so I really didn't know how to deal with it.
Mhm.
And I think I really kind of developed a chip on my shoulder. I was like,
Sure.
okay, people like don't want to talk to me, then I don't need to talk to them. I don't need anybody. And my parents would talk to me about that and be like, dude, why aren't you talking in school?
Mhm.
My aide would say the same thing to me, and I would just be like, hey, if they could easily introduce themselves to me, but they aren't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I dealt with a lot of I wasn't an angry kid, but I dealt with a lot of anger because it was a
Sure.
situation that I just didn't know how I could navigate. And it was something that yeah, I just kind of struggled through and didn't really learn how to navigate for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and middle school is awful.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
most people can agree we're not the nicest people when we're in middle school. But, looking back on it, I know, none of our prefrontal cortexes were fully formed yet. And
Yeah.
hormones and everything else were all kind of jerks at that age. So that I know that just makes it even worse. And I don't mean to make light of it. So
Right. Yeah.
apologies. So did you have I don't know how to say this without sounding awful. Did you have any friends? Like, did you have a good, like a best friend or somebody that like outside of school that you talked to or had to, bounce things off of at least, or not really?
Not really. So in middle school, like I said, I did have a group of friends um that I sat at lunch with, and one of them was actually a kid that lived in my neighborhood, so I went over to her house a lot in sixth grade. And then we kind of uh fell out of touch. Nothing bad there. It
Yeah,
just kind of
it
we didn't
happens.
end up in any other classes
Mhm.
after that, so it was hard to kind of keep that connection going. But yeah, so I didn't really have a best friend. I didn't really have a best friend or someone that I confided in until I got into high school because I joined a sled hockey team. So I
Okay.
got,
What? Hold on. What's sled hockey? I've not
yeah,
heard of this.
yeah. So sled hockey is an adaptive form of ice hockey. So
Okay.
basically, the concept is that the players are put in these bucket-shaped sleds that are on a pair of ice skates. And
How
then we have,
cool.
yeah, and so we have two 6-inch hockey sticks that have picks on the butt end of them. So then you put your hand on the heel of the hockey stick and you make a motion similar to if you were skiing, and then
Okay.
the pick grazes the ice, and that's how you get your momentum. Um,
That's really neat. I've never heard of that. That's really cool.
yeah, yeah, it is. It's a Paralympic sport. There was a documentary on PBS back in 2014, I want to say. Uh, Wish I could remember the name of it, but if you look up PBS and Paralympic sled hockey team, you
I
should be
am
able to
writing
find
that
it.
down right now because that sounds amazing. I love documentaries too, so I'm going to look that up. Thank you. Okay, I did
Yeah.
not mean to interrupt.
Uh,
I'm so sorry.
oh, you're good. You're good. You're fine. I go on a lot of tangents, so feel free to interrupt me at any point. But yeah, yeah, and we actually two of our players, two players that were kind of going on to the advanced uh team when I joined ended up on the Paralympic team, so they're in that documentary. But
Wow.
yes, yeah. So, and I was never I've no one's ever going to accuse me of being much of an athlete, but it was something it was something that I had heard about many, many years ago. And then there was a connection that I was able to make so that I was able to find this team. And it was nice. It was nice because I was meeting other kids like me, other kids that understood what I was going through. And, so I was able to kind of start to find community there. And there's one person on the team, a couple people on the team that I still talk to this day. I did it for about 10 years until we made the move down to South Carolina. And yeah, so like I said, it was a lot of fun, and kind of the start of me opening up more and finally having those connections where I where my perspective changed, where I was kind of like, okay, these are good people, and like this is something worth maintaining and trying to keep.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes it just takes finding somebody a little like you to kind of break that wall down a little bit so that you can, start letting people in again. So that's really cool. So do you still play sled hockey or no?
I do not.
Uh
Not since we got down here. I don't. Maybe I will find another team down here, but that is yet to be seen.
okay. Well, I hope you do. That sounds awesome. Um,
Yeah.
I actually had an opportunity and it didn't come to fruition in 2020 I'm a cyclist and we have
Mhm.
a couple big marathons in Columbus here. And the para athletes that do the marathon get to have bicycle escorts. So I signed on to do it and then I started reading the regulations and man, those guys move fast. And I'm like, I don't know if I can keep up on my bike. But
Right.
anyway, so there's something you can always look into a marathon.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
That's true.
I say that I would
I've
never do it.
I've wanted to get a bike, get a cycle like that.
Yeah,
It hasn't come into fruition, but who knows if I was able to get my hands on one,
yeah,
anything's possible.
absolutely. Darn
Yeah.
tootin'. So what is life for you like now? Now that you've moved, have you found a new group yet? Have you gotten in with another friend circle?
So no, I am still looking for my community down here. It's been something with the pandemic that I've been more cautious just not to
Sure.
put myself in situations that could be potentially dangerous as far as COVID is concerned. But a few years ago, so I'm a huge, huge fan of the CBS reality television program Big Brother,
Oh yeah.
which is a program similar to Survivor. It's a social strategy game,
Hmm.
and I frequent the Big Brother subreddit all the time. And so there was a gentleman that contacted me about participating. There are these things called online reality games,
Okay.
uh, which are basically online versions of Big Brother or Survivor that take place on online.
Okay.
And so it was through one of these games that I met one of my close friends to this day. And and yeah, it's been a cool way to meet people. We have our own little group on this server called Discord
Hmm.
where uh we compete. We have competed in other games, and we talk about Big Brother. We'll be watching it during the summer. That's my obsession. If you talk to me, I'm probably gonna wanna talk about Big Brother during the summer. So yes, that's going online and finding people that have similar interests has definitely helped, definitely in
Yeah.
these times that we're living in.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people kind of crap on online friendships, but some of the best friends I've made in my life I've met online. So through like especially niche groups, like your Big Brother fandom. And I'm also a knitter and a crocheter, and there's an online forum for that. And I've met some of the coolest people there. So there's no shame in like having online friends, I don't think at all. So that's great. And that's honestly, it's a great way to find people that are very interested in the same things you are and that you have a lot in common with, because you can find people that aren't necessarily in your city and still maintain a friendship with them. So I think that's great.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that has been difficult about trying to find people here is that
Mm-hmm.
there aren't a lot of that I've found at least a lot of groups of disabled people, congregating. And so, I'll go to an event for 20 and 30 somethings, but
Mm-hmm.
then my experiences won't exactly be the same as the
Yeah.
kinds of things they're doing. I work from home and I'm kind of naturally a homebody, so I don't have a lot of the same experiences that a normal, 20, 30 something is going through. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot harder to kind of relate to people. So, but these niche groups
Mm-hmm.
have been really great in that respect because, then I am finding
Yeah.
people that I do have something in common with,
Absolutely. Well, if anybody listening in this is in the South Carolina area and wants to be friends with Noah, let us know.
right? Yep. Yeah.
So, is there anything before we, kind of wind down? Is there anything else you want to share? Do you have any like projects coming up or?
Oh boy. Well, I am in the process of trying to start my own podcast related to
Yay.
the disabled experience and kind of the middle school, high school years that we all kind of struggle through. And
Yeah.
so if ever anyone's looking to produce a podcast about disabled people, let me know.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's not a whole lot going on.
Okay. Well, so what is your Discord server then? So people want to find you to talk about Big Brother. Are
Uh,
you, if you're willing to share, you
well,
don't have to.
that one's kind of a private
Okay.
server, but you can find me on Twitter at Noah Mussay, where which is Mussay.
Okay.
And yeah, during the summer, that's all I'm talking about. So if you wanna
Awesome.
chat me up on there, you can find me.
Great. So one last question.
Yep.
If you had a piece of advice for somebody who is in the situation you were in middle school, where you just didn't have, a good friend circle and you're feeling very alone and isolated, what would you tell them?
I I would say uh, if if you find cool people, just try putting yourself out there because because then otherwise you're wasting a lot of time, and maybe you get burned. But you know, the ego is something that's really gonna stop you from
Yeah.
doing things that you need to do that could make your life better. So I think that's kind of the crux of it. You have to get past that, and sometimes you might get burned, but then other
Mhm.
times you might find that you meet some really, really cool people.
That's that's almost a word for word something I would say. So very good advice. All right. So before we're done, I have a little tradition at the end of my episode. I have to pull a card from the death deck, and
Okay.
we both get to answer the questions. So I'm going to shuffle the cards. These are just questions that have to do with anything death, dying, life related. They're all. So we're going to shuffle it up. I'm going to pick one at random and hope it's not one I've read before. Oh, okay. It's a multiple choice question. I'll let you answer it and then I'll
Okay.
answer it. Is it appropriate to take photos at a funeral? A, sure, anyone who wants to capture a memory should do so. B, pictures are fine, but not of the deceased body. Or C, no, this is not a time for selfies.
Uh, well, I would definitely say uh no to the selfies.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to get a group photo, uh, then I mean, you're you're with people that you love. So yeah, I don't know.
That was a weird
It's a difficult.
question.
That it is a weird question.
That
I
was a
would
very
say
weird question.
no photos of the deceased
Right.
because that's creepy.
That is
Um,
weird.
but and any of the living, go ahead and
Yeah.
I I guess do it.
I'm gonna agree with you on that. That would be my answer too, is B, somewhere in the middle. Maybe don't take selfies with the corpse and just keep it within reason, you know. But yeah, it's a gathering. I think there's nothing wrong with taking a photo or two. Just
Yeah, yeah,
be good about it. Okay.
yeah,
Well, thank
yep,
you again so much for coming on. So your Twitter again is
yep. At Noah Mussay, so that's Mussay,
awesome.
and yeah.
Do you have like a website or any other socials? Anybody? No?
Uh, not currently.
Okay.
I have an Instagram, but I haven't posted anything there in years.
Quite all right. I hate social media. So
Yeah, me too.
I have them all, but I rarely use them. All right. Well, thank you so much again for joining me, Noah. And any last
Thank you.
words or anything else you want to add?
Uh, Thank you for having me on. This was really great, and I love what you're doing here. I think it's
Thank you.
really important.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yep.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening today. It really helps the algorithm so more people can find me. But if you'd like to find me elsewhere, I'm at nikkithedeathdoula.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Nikki the Death Doula. Please feel free to reach out to me there. And if you'd like to support me on Patreon, you can find me at patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. As always, all the money I receive through my Patreon goes into a fund so that I can provide pro bono work to those who cannot afford my services. And you'll also get access to bonus content and maybe even a shout out here on the podcast. Scripts, editing, sound design, production, literally everything is done by me, myself, just me. Except for the music. The music is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod, and you can find license information at filmmusic.io/standard-license. And as always, a special shout out to my best friend and husband for continuing to support me along the way.